I was perusing my stash of rusty junk, and I came across these two little hammers. I thought it would be fun to clean them up. Let me give you a closer look at this one. There's the head. Head has some mushrooming, so it's definitely been used. Chipped out right there. The ball end is very roughly machined. Looks like it's knurled in the middle there. Now if that shaft is nickel plated, it's still pretty clean. Looks like there's a little bit of corrosion in the knurling down here. This end is pretty roughly finished. And this turn down right here is pretty roughly finished. I mean, it could be a factory-made hammer. It could be shop-made. It could even be student-made. I don't know. I was kind of hoping this head was going to be brass. It's not. It's steel. The handle's wood. And it threads into the head. So the wood's been threaded and the head's been tapped. So I don't know. I mean, I guess this could be factory made too. It just feels like a homemade or student made project. Looks like it's had some use. That knurling cleaned up really nice. Still has some grippiness to it too. The knurling on the head also cleaned up nice. Here it is after the 120 grit belt. I think the head came out okay. I like to sand these by hand usually, but this one was so bad, I went over it a little bit with the machine first. Sanded the shaft. This section here is smoother now. And I did the butt section. Here it is after the coarse conditioning belt. I think before I move on to the finer conditioning belts, I'm going to work on getting in here and in here polished up. I work my way down to the 600 grit bristle wheel. I think they did a good job getting at these two tough to reach areas. I'm going to work on hand sanding this ball end next. Let's see how nice I can get it. I sanded from 240 down to 600 with this stuff. I think it looks pretty good. Just to see what happens, I think I'm going to take my Dremel and some scrubby wheels, see if I can buff out some of those sanding scratches some more. This black or dark gray colored wheel is supposed to be the finest one. I think it blended some of those scratches in. I think that looks decent. Okay, this is me working on the head of the wooden handle hammer. Check out those sparks. This right here, this gave me and my 1x30 machine almost all we could handle. I was using an 80 grit belt. You can see by the pile there, I had to take off a lot of material just to get it to this stage. Also had a tough time getting these ends squared up. I think I did okay though. Seems pretty good. Here it is after the 120 grit belt. I think I'm going to run a wire brush in those threads and then give this whole thing a soak in evaporust just to get all the rust out of the pitting that remains. So here's the head after an overnight soak in evaporust, and then going over with the wire wheel. At least now I know the pits Don't have any rust in them. Can you all see that almost like a stripe on either end, where the metal's a slightly different color? That's weird, huh? I know a lot of times the evaporust will show a darker area where something's been heat treated. But it doesn't seem like it's darker. I don't know. Just thought I'd point that out. I went through my coarse and medium conditioning belts on the pitted surface. And then on the faces, I sanded down to 800 grit with my 1x30 machine. I'm going to blue the head with this G96 liquid gun blue. I've got the head soaking in hot water. I find that this gun blue likes the part to be heated up. The bluing came out less than stellar. So I buffed this with steel wool. I'm going to try rebluing it. I ended up coloring outside the lines a little bit with the bluing. So I took it back over to the 1x30 and cleaned the face up with the 800 grit belt. It seems like this wood handle has a lot of oil on it. So I've got mineral spirits and a toothbrush. I thought it was going to be dirtier than that. I thought the dark color meant that it was all greasy and grimy, but not much came off it. Maybe it's just a dark wood. All right, I'll keep scraping. I scraped away all the finish. What do you figure that is? You figure that's a piece of walnut, maybe? I don't know. See what it looks like after I sand it. Here's the handle sanded down to 220. I didn't make much of an effort to sand out all the nicks and gouges. I'm thinking that's going to go good with all the pitting in the head. Going to go for a rustic look, I think. Okay, remember what these two small hammers look like in the beginning. And here they are now. I went full bling on this small ball peen. After the medium and fine conditioning belts, Chuck and I polished it with our favorite stuff. I added some color with Tester's red metallic enamel. I'm particularly happy with how the ball end came out. Remember how rough it was? The butt end of the handle looks a lot better too. I went with a more rustic look with this small hammer. The second coat of gun blue seemed to take better. Chuck and I polished the faces. I had planned on gluing and pinning the head to the handle, but after struggling to sand whatever steel that head was made of, I decided Bob Smith's 30-minute epoxy was going to have to do. I finished the wood handle with some free pile dark walnut and urethane. So do you think these hammers were factory made, student shop class projects, or homemade? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.